Let's roll. It's time for the RotoWire Rundown. I'm, of course, Keith Stewart from Read the Line, and next to me, my counterpart in crime, the award-winning fantasy writer from none other than RotoWire. Of course, it's Len Hochberg. Len, senior golf writer over there at RotoWire. How are you, my friend?
I am well, not as well as you, Mr. On Fire, Mr. Taylor Pendrith. Nail it. Tell us how you did it.
Well, boy, third week in a row. I mean, it's funny how you go on these runs. We all started the year super cold, and then now all of a sudden it seems like it's fully springtime in the Northeast, and things are they're heating up. A couple weeks ago, Nelly plus Scottie in that parlay for 30-1. Last week, Hannah Green at the LA Championship, 35-1. Then, of course, this week, the Taylor Pendrith bomb at 100-1. I mean, I got to get Ben Coles' address because I got to send him a bouquet or something for Christmas, or I don't know what. But the only guy to bogey 18 all day. I mean, if you don't think pressure matters in these things, you need to watch more golf. And I tell you, we're coming into a week at the Wells Fargo here at Quail Hollow Club where those last three holes are certainly going to dictate who wins this thing come Sunday afternoon. But Taylor Pendrith had an incredible fall and an incredible winter. He had 5 top 15 finishes. And then he started to have a little shoulder issue. It was like a reoccurring problem, and he missed like 5 cuts in 6 events or something like that. He wasn't doing very well, but he goes to Corrales, finishes 11 under, great comp course there for CJ Cup, which is TPC Craig Ranch. And then, of course, he finishes 11th with his countryman at the Zurich, Corey Connors. So I said, you know what? This guy, he's back to the position, and I love him in these bomb away, birdie fests, bomb and gouge type events. And, of course, Pendrith comes through. He had a 64, he had a 63 on the card, and he got just enough done on Sunday afternoon for our third week in a row, and a huge hit at 100-1. So thanks for bringing it up.
You're welcome, and looking forward to hearing what you have later in the show.
Yeah, but right now, I mean, there's news all over this place. I mean, yes, I'm at a signature event. Yes, Ludwig Oberg, he withdrew yesterday with a knee issue. He hasn't even said which knee it is yet, but he's got a knee issue. But folks, don't worry, everything will be fine for Valhalla. I don't know what's going on, but I tell you what, we do know what's going on. Scottie Scheffler said earlier in the week that he's not coming to Wells Fargo. Now, there's a major next week. What do you make of all this? Is it just baby stuff, or what's going on here?
Well, I mean, we don't know, but I mean, connecting the dots, it definitely seems to be he's preparing with his wife Meredith for the birth of their child, and it's admirable and the right thing to do that he is there. We don't know whether the baby has been born yet. Scheffler seems like a very private guy. It's not like he's going to get on Twitter 5 seconds later and say, hey, here's pictures and stuff and everything. So we don't even know if the baby has been born or what, and, complete speculation. But if the baby hasn't been born yet, and we start to drip a few more days into the future here, and then we start to bleed into next week. So, but for this week, I mean, it's Christmas for all the other golfers. They get a chance to win a tournament, like we're not playing for second place. So, but it sort of kind of makes our job a little bit harder, but maybe a lot more fun. It's been a little more fun preparing for this week.
Well, I love when we get a chance to bet something straight up like last week, try to do a workaround for Scottie. It just gets tiresome after a while, and I look back, Scottie didn't play this event last year. This was the one signature event that he skipped. So maybe he's just not a Charlotte guy or a Quail Hollow guy. I don't know. Maybe he didn't like it at the President's Cup a couple years ago. I'm not quite sure. It also comes at a midpoint in the season where you can get an extra week off. So I'm not really reading a bunch into this. It will get interesting, though, if that baby, like you said, we just don't know, and Scottie's not on social media, but at some point it will come out. I like to think it hasn't happened yet. And as we record this, we're 9 days out from round 1 of the second major championship. So I think his mettle is going to get tested a little bit. And, just a couple other things. Talking about the PGA Championship, let's shift gears for a second. A couple live guys got invites this week. We're about to round out the final field. 2 weeks ago, We got the 20 PGA professionals that qualified their way in, and then now there's been 3 live exemptions for guys to come in. It's getting exciting. We're just a week away from Valhalla.
Yeah, unlike Scottie Scheffler, who will not go to Twitter 5 seconds later, Taylor Gooch probably didn't even hang up the phone before he started tweeting. But he was gracious in accepting the invite from the PGA of America. So good on him for that. Yeah, I don't know what to make of all this. Dean Burmester, also an invite, playing very well. And David Puig, the young Spaniard, he's a guy who went, played in Asia extensively and won a couple of tournaments and a couple of other podium finishes over there. So, his invite made perfect sense. So, yeah, this is really kind of throwing the golf universe in an uproar. Is this going to lead to a quicker agreement between the two tours? You could make the argument that that live, if they're going to get into majors, and we don't know about the 2 opens, but if they're going to get into majors now, then what's their impetus to make a deal? They could have their cake on the live tour and get into the majors and eat it too. So, we're still processing this, but, I do know that Taylor Gooch will have to have a good tournament to avoid the social media wrath.
Oh, I tell you, people are already queuing up the memes. That's for sure. I mean, everybody loves to come after this guy, and he's giving them good reason to do it. But you bring up a very good point. The PGA Tour is continuing to distance themselves out on a weaker and weaker limb here. Augusta has chosen to do whatever they want to do. Now the PGA of America is choosing whatever they want to do. Brooks Koepka played in the Ryder Cup. So it's getting more and more interesting. And if the USGA and the R&A follow suit, you're right. I mean, live can just keep on living. And why would they need to then give a life support, endowment over there to the PGA Tour? It will get very interesting. And I guess the only downside to that is that we'll have to hear Greg Norman talk more, but that's another conversation for another day. Let's get into Quail Hollow Club. I love this place. I've been down here a couple times. Was here covering the President's Cup. I've been here for the Wells Fargo a couple times. This is a fantastic venue. If on a scale of 1 to 10, Augusta National is a 10, this place is a 9. I mean, they take it to the 9s. I mean, it is absolutely exquisite what the golf course looks like. It is in impeccable shape. And as we get ready to build out our lineups and for me to bell out my betting card, what skills or, features of this golf course are you looking at directly as not just a way to come up with the names that you need for this week, but also as a perfect warm-up for what it seems like for Valhalla and the PGA Championship in 1 week's time?
Yeah, and it's an interesting point because very often we don't get a really good comp course the week before a major. I mean, maybe outside of the rough, which should be much thicker and bigger and taller next week, these courses are pretty comparable, almost exact same distance, roughly a little bit on either side of 7,600 yards, both super long. You're looking at the last 5 winners at Quail Hollow, not Wells Fargo, because we've had a couple of years where they've gone other places, but the last 5 winners, Wyndham Clark, Rory McIlroy, Max Homa, Jason Day back in 2018, and Justin Thomas at the PGA back in 2017. All big name guys, all top guys. This is a big boy golf tournament. This is a big boy golf course. And, you've got to bring your A game this week, and you got to be one of the top guys to win. So, and we would expect the same next week. It's long, but, there are other factors at play as well. We've seen scrambling be very important this week. We've seen putting be very important. You have to putt very well this week. So really, it's the proverbial you need all the clubs in your bag this week. And that eliminates some of the 69 guys, is it now, in the field? So, I think it's going to be a very fascinating 2 weeks of golf, although maybe Scottie Scheffler will just bust through the door next week and say, hey, guys, I'm back. Who's playing for second? But it should be a great week.
Well, one week at a time. I have to remind myself right now because I am getting fired up. You see, the elite are here and they're getting prepared, and you know that they're getting prepared not just for this week, but next week. And to your point, both a par 71, both around 7,600 yards. It's going to be a very similar test, although I think the greens at Valhalla are a lot simpler than the complexities of the greens here, the green surfaces here at Quail Hollow. And it's worth mentioning that, they made a couple of improvements or enhancements to the golf course since the last time we've seen the Wells Fargo here. 12 greens were quote unquote softened, whatever that might be. And they added about 25 yards to the 16th hole, as if part of the green mile wasn't long enough or hard enough to begin with. Now the 16th hole measures 529 yards as a par 4 that has a peninsula green that goes out into a lake. Whatever. I mean, it's definitely 16, 17, and 18 here are the three toughest finishing holes in all of the PGA Tour that these guys will see all year. Now, as far as the skill set goes, you brought it up. Big boy contest, you're going to need the big stick. Average driving distance here is 301 yards by the field. Average driving distance on the PGA Tour is 284 yards, 17 yards difference. That means that certainly power, ball speed, and all of that is rewarded. Hitting the fairway is obviously a premium, but at the same time, the longer you are, the further you are down there, shortens those approach shots, which we know, second point, is that 53% of the approach shots come from 175 yards or longer, a third of them over 200 yards. So you've got 9 par 4s over 450 yards. It's very much like Augusta National in that these par 4s are a huge test. There's a couple short ones, but for the most part, those other 9, they are just brutal, and they go up and down these hills. The television doesn't even barely predict the terrain here, much like Augusta National. And then the third thing is that the last 10 winners here at Quail Hollow, skip 2022, skip 2017, so go back 12 years, but those last 10 winners have gained an average of over 6 strokes on the field with their putter. So you have to be a good putter to win here. It's almost mandatory. And if you're not a good putter, well, you darn better sure have a good week with it, because for one thing's for sure, even if they did soften some of the greens, these green complexes are wicked, and they're a lot of fun to watch, and it makes the tournament super, super, super entertaining.
Yeah, it just all of that gets me even more excited for that. And and the greens are going to be even smaller next week, right? These are kind of a little bit larger greens, close to 6,000 square feet. Next week, we're talking about 5,000 square feet. So that's going to ratchet that up even that much more. But I do like that the Green Mile has the nickname for the Green Mile. It's not some cutesy animal with a bear or a snake with a horrible horseshoe, which, the Green Mile, it sounds pretty tough,
Well, it's a mile long, now a mile plus. So, it's not only appropriate, but to your point, it seems less gimmicky. It's like, finish this thing off. Well, you just got to travel a mile, which is tough. Now, speaking of finishing it off, right? The 3 best candidates in order to do that, now that we've lost Ludwig and now that we have lost Scottie Scheffler from the DFS board, we got, 3 guys up there in the 10K land. So which one are you picking?
Yeah, I hate to be this guy, but there's really something to say for all 3 of them. I really think the winner is going to come from way up high. We talked about the last 5 winners, all really top flight guys. And Rory at 11.8, Xander at 11.5, Clark at 10.5. Rory is a horse for this course. And, and maybe, in a strange way before the Zurich, or I wouldn't have picked him, but after the Zurich, he just seems to, even though it's a team event, nothing like this week, but he just seemed to got his joy back. There was very little joy on the course from Rory McIlroy. So I'm sure he's really been feeling a lot better about golf and himself, and probably pretty excited to get out here for this 2-week test here where he has a history at both courses. So, and you talked how you just got to bomb the ball out there, and nobody does that better than him. Xander was second here last year to Wyndham Clark, who won. And Wyndham Clark, you can make an argument that he's been the second best golfer this year, B-flight outside of Scottie Scheffler. 2 runners up to Scheffler, 1 third place. And he has a win at Pebble, kind of dicey with the forecast and the 3 rounds and all that. But really, there's something to be said for all 3 of these guys. And so if you went in any of those directions, I would not argue.
Okay, so we've got twice as many guys down in 9K, six names there to choose from. Who are you picking?
Yeah, I like a couple of guys there. It wasn't quite as obvious to me. Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy Fleetwood has played very well at this course a couple of times, and but amazingly, Tommy Fleetwood is like 174th on tour in strokes gained approach this year, which will not get it done anywhere. Europe, wherever Tommy Fleetwood wants to go to play, 174th in strokes gained approach. But he's just come off a third at the Masters, so maybe turning it around a little bit. And I just think that there's so much course history here and so much correlation between playing well here and playing well here again. I do like him. I'm a little surprised he's priced higher than Max Homa, another guy who I like. I mean, who wouldn't like Max Homa here? He's won here, tends to do his best work, seems to play best on long, hard golf courses. And, also has to be feeling good about himself coming off the Masters, his best major ever by far. Those are my 2 plays in the 9s.
Now in the 8s, talking about 2 plays, 2 hot names from last week, Alex Noren and Ben An. Do we continue the run with those 2, or are there different guys down there in 8K land?
Yeah, again, I think it's in the 8s, you could still get more of the big name glamour golfers that I am leaning toward, even though the 2 guys I'm about to say are just terrible putters, Hideki Matsuyama and Justin Thomas. Now, they're in the 8s. Hideki's at 89, Thomas is at 85. We don't need them to win in DFS to justify those prices. If you're taking a guy in the 11s, 11,000, whatever, 10s or something, if they don't win, I don't know if you're getting your bang for your buck there. But Hideki and Justin Thomas are so good tee to green. Justin Thomas, he's had some really high profile misses. I think he missed at the Players and he missed at the Masters and he missed at Riviera. But in the 6 cuts he's made, he's got 5 top 12s. 5 top 12s and 6 made cuts. So it's really feast or famine for him. He's top 10 in approach, top 10 in tee to green. But both of these guys are about 160th or something in putting. But I like them at that price. I wouldn't have liked them if they were much higher than that.
Now, in the 7K land, I noticed there's a bunch of past President's Cup players. You've got Adam Scott. I think Taylor Pendrith is down there, the recent winner. Of course, Tom Kim. Any of that kind of experience kind of sway you in 7K land, or are you choosing a couple other guys?
That's a good point, and it didn't, and maybe it shouldn't. But I'm looking at 3 guys. We've talked about them before. Akshay Bhatia, really ball striking, great of late, and to get him in the 7,000s, these guys you could fit into any lineup. Steven Yeager continues to play well after the win. So many times we see a player get their maiden win on tour, and it just changes their life, and their just game isn't sharp for the foreseeable future. A few weeks, maybe longer. They got more cash. They got more people coming up and saying hi in the airport or whatever, and their life changes. But Yeager's a little bit older, not in his 20s anymore. I think he took it more in stride, and he played well at the RBC Heritage, and he played well last week at the Byron Nelson. Obviously not a good field. And then Harris English, who I talk about all the time, he's really the most unassuming guy, one of the best bargains. He's always in the low 7s. He's top 25 almost every week. I think he's got 7 top 25s on tour this year. He's just never going to be a high price guy in a big boy field. And he just holds his own almost every week against them. He doesn't win, maybe not a top 10, but you get a top 25 or maybe a little more, you're doing okay.
Yeah, Harris English, he played great here last year. Finished in the top 5. He was absolutely I think it comes down to the putting too. Harris English plays well in U.S. Opens. He puts the ball in play long off the tee, and he's a very good putter, very good chipper, solid short game. So I think that's an excellent name. Now, down in 7K land, there's a past champion down there, Ricky Fowler. But, boy, I mean, if there was something below 6K land, he might even be there. So I don't know if it's him. based on course experience, or is it another name down in 6K? But I love when you give us the long shots.
Yeah, I really looked kind of long and hard at Ricky Fowler at 6,900. And great history at this course, but he's really has not shown much of anything this year. As good as he was last year, it just all went away. It just all went away. Just terrible approach play. Just hard all the way around to watch him play. There are three names I like. Austin Eckroat, just a great iron player. He played here last year. I think he missed the cut, but that doesn't bother me if you miss it in your first try. He's still getting his feet wet on tour. He's another guy like Steven Yeager, who won his first tournament, but has continued to play well. And he's a lot younger than Yeager, so I could have seen him going off the rails for a little bit, but he really hasn't. He's been playing very well. Kurt Kitayama, interesting that Kurt Kitayama doesn't have a lot of high finishes, but he finishes like in the upper 20s or the 30s just about every week. He doesn't, he's not 40, he's not 50, he's not 60 or something. So he can sort of hang around, and maybe in the 6,000s, that's okay. That's okay. And all the way down at 6,500, Matthew Pavone, I sort of posted this on Twitter, just asked a little question. Who's the only player on the PGA Tour ranked in the top 20 in strokes gained approach and strokes gained putting? It's Matthew Pavone. So that's a pretty good combination to take into to Quail Hollow.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost the perfect combination. Throw in a little bit of length off the tee, and I mean, you're ready to roll there. Now, speaking of ready to roll around this place, I believe that our man Wyndham is coming back for another win. And, folks have said to me already, Keith, no one's ever repeated at the Wells Fargo. Hey, no one ever repeated at the Players. And Scottie took care of that. And Wyndham came in second there. And this is a big part of my point, is that he was 19 under here last year. He won by 3 over Xander. At one point in the final round early, he was losing, and he came back and he just blew away the field. The guy was ranked 80th in the world last year. Now he's ranked 3rd. Since he won here, in 10 months, the guy came away with a U.S. Open and another signature win. And you could say it was 54 holes, but the guy shot the course record at Pebble. So at least he went out and did it. And everybody else knew a hurricane was coming. So he was the one that got it done on Saturday. 5 signature events this year. The guy has a first, a second, and a third, and he was runner-up by a lip out at the Players. So I like Wyndham at the top of the board. When you lose the kid, Ludwig, and when you lose Scottie, I mean, in my mind, Wyndham's got to be the next best guy as far as, what we've seen so far this spring. And then my second guy, and this guy, I really think this is his breakthrough win. Now, he's won before, and similarly like Max Homa, he won at the Fortinet, but he's won before. But when you look at Rory winning here, Ricky winning here, Max, Wyndham, all having kind of a breakthrough moment here at Wells Fargo, it happens more than you think. In 5 signature events this year, Sahith Theegala has a second, and a 6th, and he was top 10. He was 9th at the Players. Now, he missed the cut here last year. He was not very good with the driver. His ball striking is now matching his putting, and that's why I love him here, because this is the type of guy that can gain 7, 8, 9 shots with the putter. He's capable of doing that, and now that he keeps the ball in play off the tee, Sahith Theegala at plus 3,000, I love him in that middle tier, and I think that this kid's just a superstar waiting to happen. I've seen him out here a number of times now, and where it looks like he has a very kind of happy-go-lucky attitude. When you look a little bit closer, he smiles a lot, which, makes him a little bit unassuming, but man, he's grinding hard. I've seen him a couple times kind of get a little bit frustrated or mad at himself after hitting a bad shot. He is really, really focused on what he's doing. Guy was a former player of the year in college. So I think he's just a really, really interesting fit for this golf course here. Got to putt it. You got to ball strike it. And he's been doing all of those things. I mean, he's gaining 3 shots tee to green and another 3 shots against the field with his putter over his last 5 starts, which is just the perfect mix. So I'm going to go Wyndham Clark and Sahith Theegala with the beginning of my outright betting card.
Yeah, but for Theegala, for Sahith Theegala, it's all about keeping the ball in the fairway, because once he gets closer to the green, he's one of the best short game putting combinations around. So which will be in play, which plays sort of almost any week. And as you mentioned, it's paying off with a lot of good results for him.
And you know what? He looks comfortable out here, Len, which is a big deal. And I know you notice those things because you pay attention to all these details all the time when you're putting together your DFS, stories and your lineups. He really is starting to look more and more comfortable, and the guy's got a tremendous amount of talent. Who is just like my partner every week on the rundown. You talk about a tremendous amount of talent. That's, of course, Len Hochberg. So, Len, any parting words before the next time we talk? I'm going to be in Louisville for the second major championship of the season.
Only that very jealous and just have a rocking great time and hit some outrights or just get some nice dinners. Either or both.
Well, hitting a nice dinner is good, but 4 weeks in a row, if we land another this week after Penrith, whoo boy, that'd be a lot of steam heading into Louisville. So I'm looking forward to that. And of course, everyone, please look forward to checking out Len and I on the RotoWire Rundown every Tuesday, 8:15 his time. That's Pacific time, 11:15 a.m. my time, which is East Coast time. We'll see you in a week from Valhalla.